Good evening, and welcome to tonight's deep dive into what is rapidly becoming one of the most volatile, unpredictable, and potentially franchise-altering chapters in modern NBA history. If you thought the offseason drama had settled down, think again, because the landscape of the league is shifting beneath our feet as we speak. Tonight, we are tracking two massive, interconnected storylines that have front offices across the league in an absolute frenzy. At the center of this storm are two of the most dominant, yet enigmatic, superstars of this generation, Kawhi Leonard and Anthony Davis. The basketball world was rocked earlier today by stunning reports emerging out of Los Angeles regarding the future of the Clippers' franchise anchor, Kawhi Leonard. The situation between the multi-time Finals MVP and the organization has reportedly reached a critical breaking point, giving rise to an unprecedented ultimatum that could freeze the trade market entirely. Rumors are circulating heavily that Leonard is prepared to take extreme measures if the Clippers attempt to move him to an undesirable destination. The word coming out of his camp is that Kawhi will either force a complete cancellation of any pending trade or, failing that, simply sit out and shop on a full suspension, effectively refusing to suit up for a team he did not choose. This kind of hardball tactic strikes at the very heart of team leverage, threatening to completely derail the Clippers' front office strategy as they attempt to retool their roster. But the ripple effects of this Los Angeles standoff do not stop at the crypt. Just a few hours north, the Golden State Warriors are facing an existential crisis of their own, and they are growing increasingly desperate. The post-dynasty era in San Francisco has been defined by a frantic search for a secondary superstar to pair with Stephen Curry before his championship window closes for good. Having struck out on multiple marquee targets over the last few years, the Warriors front office is reportedly pivoting toward an absolute blockbuster, setting their sights on the powerhouse big man of the Los Angeles Lakers, Anthony Davis. Golden State is putting together what sources describe as an aggressive, all-in pursuit, willing to empty their asset chest to land a defensive anchor and offensive engine. The Warriors are desperate, the Clippers are trapped, and the Lakers are watching the trade market warp around them. Over the course of this broadcast, we are going to break down every single angle of these developing stories. We will look at the legal and financial mechanisms behind Kawhi Leonard's reported threat to accept a suspension over a trade, what it means for player empowerment in the modern era, and how the Clippers can possibly navigate a relationship that seems entirely fractured. Then, we will transition into a comprehensive, asset-by-asset analysis of the Golden State Warriors' desperate pursuit of Anthony Davis, examining whether they have the pieces to actually entice the Lakers, how Davis would fit into Steve Kerr's system alongside Steph Curry, and what this means for the balance of power in the Western Conference. This is a high-stakes chess game where one wrong move could ruin a franchise for a decade. So stay with us as we unpack the full context, the background, and the massive long-term implications of these breaking NBA developments. To truly understand the gravity of Kawhi Leonard's current standoff with the Los Angeles Clippers, we have to look back at how this partnership was formed and the expectations that have governed it since 2019. When the Clippers successfully paired Leonard with Paul George, it was heralded as a masterstroke that would finally wrest control of Southern California basketball away from the Lakers. Instead, the era has been defined by flashes of brilliant championship-level play constantly undermined by catastrophic health setbacks and structural instability. With Paul George having already departed, the organizational pressure on the Clippers has intensified to an unsustainable degree. The front office is caught in a classic NBA paradox. They are tethered to an aging, highly paid superstar whose trade value is heavily compromised by injury history, yet they cannot afford to simply tank, especially with a brand new arena to fill and a fan base demanding competitiveness. This has naturally led to internal discussions about a potential trade, an exit strategy that would allow the Clippers to recoup assets and pivot into a new era. However, Kawhi Leonard is not a typical superstar, and his approach to leverage has always been uniquely uncompromising. The latest reports indicate that Leonard's camp has caught wind of these trade explorations and has immediately shut down the possibility of being treated as a tradable commodity to just any bidder. The threat of a player choosing to shop on suspension or actively force the cancellation of a trade is a nuclear option in modern sports labor relations. In the current NBA collective bargaining agreement, teams hold a contractual right to trade players to any of the other 29 franchises, provided there is an explicit no-trade clause active in the contract. Leonard does not possess a formal no-trade clause, but what he does possess is the ultimate leverage of dynamic compliance. If a team trades for a superstar against that player's will, they are taking a monumental risk. By leaking the narrative that he would rather accept a suspension, forfeiting massive game checks, than play for a team he dislikes, Kawhi Leonard is effectively poisoning the well for any potential trade partner. Think about it from the perspective of an acquiring team like the New York Knicks, Miami Heat, or Houston Rockets. Would you trade away multiple young players and first-round draft picks for a player who has openly stated he will not report to your facility, will not integrate into your culture, and will happily sit at home while under suspension? The answer is an unequivocal no. Therefore, by threatening to shop on suspension, Kawhi is creating a de facto no-trade clause. He is telling the Clippers that they can only trade him to a destination that he personally approves, completely destroying their ability to spark a bidding war or accept the absolute best package available on the open market. This places the Clippers in a devastating strategic corner, forcing them to choose between keeping an unhappy, injured superstar or trading him for pennies on the dollar to a destination of his choosing. This situation exposes a deeper, structural tension in the modern NBA regarding player empowerment versus organizational control. For years, superstars have forced their way out of teams by demanding trades, but Kawhi's reported tactic takes it a step further by threatening total non-participation, even after a deal is struck. The financial implications for Leonard would be severe. An unexcused absence leads to hefty fines and withholding of salary under league rules. But for a player who has already secured hundreds of millions of dollars in career earnings and prioritized his personal comfort and long-term health above all else, the threat is entirely credible. Front offices across the league are watching this with immense anxiety because it sets a dangerous precedent. If a player of Kawhi's stature can successfully veto a trade without having a legal no-trade clause in his contract, the foundational mechanics of the NBA trade market are compromised. The Clippers find themselves entirely paralyzed, unable to maximize the value of their biggest asset, and stuck in a holding pattern that threatens to ruin their upcoming seasons. Meanwhile, as the Clippers grapple with paralysis, the Golden State Warriors are operating with a sense of frantic urgency that borders on outright desperation. The Warriors are a franchise haunted by the passage of time. Stephen Curry remains one of the most lethal offensive forces on the planet, capable of carrying a team on any given night, but the supporting infrastructure around him has eroded. The departures and aging of key foundational pieces from their championship runs have left Golden State in a purgatory of mediocrity. They are too good to secure a top lottery pick, but far too vulnerable to seriously compete with the elite powerhouses of the Western Conference, such as the Oklahoma City Thunder or the Dallas Mavericks. The front office, led by Mike Dunleavy Jr., knows that wasting the final years of Curry's prime would be an unforgivable organizational failure. This desperation has led them to internalize a radical philosophy. Everything that isn't named Stephen Curry must be on the table, if it means acquiring a true, certified top 10 talent. And that brings us directly to their ultimate, audacious target, Anthony Davis. The Warriors' pursuit of Anthony Davis is born out of a perfect tactical and positional need. For years, the Warriors have pioneered small ball lineups, using Draymond Green as a versatile defensive center to unlock historic offensive spacing. However, as the league has grown bigger, longer, and more athletic, that formula has faced severe diminishing returns. The Warriors are routinely punished on the glass and lack elite rim protector who can simultaneously punish teams on the interior offensively. Anthony Davis is the absolute antidote to these structural flaws. He is arguably the most versatile defensive big man of his generation, capable of anchoring a drop coverage scheme, switching onto elite guards on perimeter, and obliterating shots at the rim. Offensively, his ability to play out the pick and roll, catch lobs, and score efficiently in the paint would give Stephen Curry the most dynamic pick and roll partner he has ever shared a court with. The basketball fit is flawless, representing a terrifying synthesis of elite perimeter shot-making and dominant interior gravity. However, wanting Anthony Davis and actually acquiring him are two entirely different realities. The Los Angeles Lakers view Davis as the bridge to their post-LeBron James future and the current engine of their competitive identity. To even get the Lakers to pick up the phone, the Warriors have to present a package that is historically lucrative, one that completely strips their roster of future assets. The projected trade packages being whispered about in league circles are staggering. We're talking about Jonathan Kuminga, Brandon Podziemski, Tracy Jackson-Davis, Kevin Looney for salary matching purposes, and a haul of unprotected first-round draft picks and pick swaps extending out into the next decade. For Golden State, this is the ultimate roll of the dice. They would be mortgaging their entire post-Curry future for a 2 to 3 year window of maximum contention. If Davis stays healthy and pairs seamlessly with Curry, the Warriors instantly vault back into the tier of legitimate championship favorites. If Davis suffers a major injury, or if the lack of depth exposes the roster, the Warriors will have ruined their future for nothing, leaving them stranded in a barren wasteland of asset depletion once Curry eventually retires. It is a high-wire act born out of pure desperation, showcasing just how desperate the Warriors are to capture one more golden moment before the curtain falls on their historic era. As we look at the broader landscape of the NBA, the developing situations with Kawhi Leonard and Anthony Davis represent a fascinating inflection point for the league's competitive balance and the strategies of its most iconic franchises. The era of the traditional superstar trade, where a team simply accepts the best collection of assets regardless of the player's preferences, is rapidly dying. Kawhi Leonard's aggressive posturing against the Clippers proves that elite players now possess the tools to dictate their movement through sheer disruption. By threatening a suspension, Leonard is reshaping the boundaries of player power, proving that contracts are only as binding as the player's willingness to fulfill them. For the Clippers, this is a deeply sobering realization. They gave up a historic haul of draft picks to build this era, and now they face the very real possibility of watching it dissolve without the ability to properly rebuild through the trade market. It is a stark warning to front offices everywhere about the hidden costs of building around superstars who prioritize personal autonomy over organizational directives. For the Golden State Warriors, their pursuit of Anthony Davis will define the legacy of their current front office and determine how the Stephen Curry era is remembered in the history books. Desperation can be a dangerous motivator in professional sports, often leading to short-sighted decisions that cripple franchises for a generation. Yet, in the case of the Warriors, it is a calculated desperation. They understand that a superstar of Curry's caliber comes along once in a lifetime, and standard asset management protocols do not apply when trying to maximize his remaining peak years. The asset cost to acquire Davis would be excruciating, leaving the Warriors with a top-heavy roster and almost no margin for error. But in an NBA where championships are won by elite talent executing at the highest level, it is a risk the Warriors feel entirely justified in taking. The next few weeks will be crucial as these back-channel discussions, trade ultimatums, and front office calculations burst into the open market, transforming the structural reality of the league. Thank you so much for joining us for this extensive, deep-dive analysis of the breaking developments shaking the NBA. The situation surrounding Kawhi Leonard's standoff with the Clippers and the Warriors' desperate pursuit of Anthony Davis are moving incredibly fast, and the implications will be felt for years to come. We will continue to track every update, every leak report, and every official move right here, providing you with the comprehensive, context-driven analysis you need to understand the true story behind the headlines. Make sure to stay tuned as we follow this high-stakes chess match to its ultimate conclusion. Have a wonderful evening, and we will see you next time.